Hello, welcome to Beyond the Boundary. This is round 19. It's fantastic to have you on board yet again. I've got Nick to my right, as always. How are you, Nick?
Oh, pretty good. I won't be in a couple of seconds then.
No, you won't. Vinay, on my left. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. Another big round of footy awaits us, and we're back into the normal rounds.
We are, thank
games.
God.
Oh, jeez. I didn't
It's
mind the split
fantastic.
round, actually. I thought it was a pretty successful
It was a good round of
split
footy.
Yeah, every game was brilliant.
Round of upsets.
I think it's the
Tell you
best you
what.
could expect a split round to be.
If that was a proper round, that probably would have been the best round of the year so far.
I probably would have.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Now, can we move on to the tips?
No, we can't.
Yes,
we're
we
going to
can.
keep talking about the round this
we're just going to
Tips
drag
right
it.
here. Bang, bang, bang. Who's in front?
How many did you get, Josh?
Woo! 2.
You got 2 out of 4, Josh.
Alright.
Celebrate.
Nick, how many did you get?
I got none.
None.
None out of 4.
I
This is
tell
the
you what,
second half
boys.
of the split round. we're
And I
talking about.
take the lead.
I changed my tip to the Lions, and then I changed it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Because I'm a
saying that
fool.
now.
Because you had nothing in between your legs, that's why.
Because I'm a fool, that's why. But we will continue on, and
It's
we'll
like calling
hope
you
that this week
Theon
can bring us
Greyjoy.
something.
Just remember, we will release our tips on Friday at 6 p.m.
And you've taken the lead, Josh. by the
Ricard
way.
Greyjoy.
I just said that.
Oh, you said that? I missed that.
Thanks for reminding me. I'll remind you again.
Nick, what are you doing, you bloody... He's not going to shout him about it all. Hey, well, let's get into the round.
Our first game, boys.
Fremantle versus Carlton. It's Thursday night at Patterson Stadium. Last time those two teams met, it was Fremantle by 36 points, guys. Fremantle lost to St Kilda by 58 points last week.
What the hell happened?
Well, Ross Lyon said after the game of the press conference, they asked him. I've lost my train of thought now. It was something very, very humorous. It was something like
What happened?
it was sort of like, is Sandilands going to be back next week? That's it. He asked him, is Sandilands going to be back next week? And he's like, well, I don't see too many people keeping him out today.
That's a fair point. It's a
I
fair
thought that
point.
was pretty humorous. Ross, the boss, goes,
As you say that, you've just reminded me, I didn't put it in my notes, but Sandiland, Stephen Hill, Hayden Ballantyne are all confirmed back in for this
That is
week.
a-
So.
I know you guys disagree that there was some Fremantle players rested there, but the fact that they would rest anyone 2 years in a row, they've done the exact same thing against the exact same team, against
they
the exact
did
same
not
stadium.
rest.
But was Sandilands not rested?
No.
Why was he out of the team?
Okay, no. Let's assume Sandilands was rested. Ballantyne was injured.
Yeah,
And suspended. And Clancy Pearce was dropped. Who else was?
But no less, they've rested Sandilands.
One person.
But that's the same mistake 2 years in a row.
But they dropped half their team last year. They
dropped
rested
about 14
They sent
people.
over East Perth.
But then they've still
Peel
rested
Thunder, sorry.
players, and they've still lost to St Kilda at Etihad. You'd think
Not
they would
players.
have won.
One different
Not players. Player.
But how much of a difference has that
Oh,
made?
my
How much of a
goodness.
difference has this decision made in their
But
season?
St Kilda didn't really have a decent ruckman. They had Billy Longer,
Yeah.
but Tom Hickey's their number one ruckman.
Billy Longer took a decent look at the scoreboard.
He did.
Boys, we'll get into this. Fremantle, I think, obviously, they weren't the Fremantle that they usually are. Ross, the boss, was just, he was as shocked as any of us
No
are.
doubt have they underestimated St Kilda.
I think
without a
so, but we also have to give credit to St Kilda. We can't keep saying that it was Fremantle that came out and fell asleep. But St Kilda showed us glimpses of the St Kilda of 2010. The way they played, it was brilliant footy.
We'll get into them soon.
Their running
Fremantle
was running, and all that kind of thing. So Fremantle just got caught in the wrong week, I think.
Yeah.
And they'll be hungry to get back on the winners' board this week. It's a home game. And they're coming up against a side that doesn't mind upsetting some of the bigger clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we get on to Carlton, as good as Fremantle are, I still feel there's a few passengers in that side. Yeah.
Like
Who?
Names.
Colin Silver.
Okay, definitely agree.
He hasn't played too many games for them, has he?
He's only played 3 games.
In the last 6 weeks he's played, and he hasn't really had a big impact.
Yep.
Cameron Sutcliffe, a bit young,
He hasn't been that bad, actually.
hasn't been that bad, but still could do more.
Well, it's interesting now that this comes up because a couple of weeks ago we discussed, who goes out of that side in New Zealand.
Well, absolutely. And the other one I've pointed out who had a ripping 2013 was one of their best players
Chris
led them
Mayne.
to the grand final is Chris Mayne.
Yeah.
He's had nowhere near the impact that he had last year.
Yeah.
So
Now, Morabito came in. He played a full game against the Saints. Didn't
He had an absolute shocker. I looked at his
Now-
stats and I thought he was the sub. He wasn't the sub. He had 4 touches and a goal for the whole game.
I'm still on this point of view. I think he should still be the sub. Because he was... Why did they change that? He was brilliant.
I
as the
agree.
sub.
I mean, if he's going to play like that, then you may as well take his 4 touches and a
yeah,
goal.
he has more disposals as a
the
sub
sub
than he did in the
Than he
previous
did
week.
in the
Yeah.
entire game, correct. Good
But anyway,
call.
we've discussed
Good
that
call.
at length anyway.
But Fremantle, I think, in order to win this game, they cannot give Carlton a sniff because Carlton is a very, very desperate kind of side.
Yeah.
They love to give it their all against the better teams. They've taken it up to Geelong, Hawthorn, They beat North Melbourne last week.
Took it up to Sydney for 3 quarters.
There you go. So they do fancy themselves. They're confident against the bigger sides.
Carlton's actually in some pretty good form.
And
They are, yeah.
And Mick Moldhouse is more or less in an Essendon mindset. It's sort of me against the world at the moment for Mick. So he might go over there, trying to get some revenge on Fremantle.
I'll tell you one player who's having a terrific season. That's Chris Yaron.
Yes,
He's having a very good, consistent year.
Flying under the radar as well.
Absolutely. His biggest problem in the past has been consistency.
Correct.
And although he's only averaging 17 disposals a game,
Yeah.
17 very
Damaging.
good quality disposals.
Lockie Henderson's had a good couple of weeks. hasn't he?
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, he kicked 4 goals to win them the game in the last quarter. And finished with 6.
Yeah. The previous week he kicked a bag as well, I believe.
Who'd they play the previous week? Sydney.
No,
I don't think.
it
I
was
think it was
St. Kilda
a
or
week before
something.
that.
Oh, a week before that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kicked 4 against St. Kilda.
Yeah.
But one thing that we do need one man that we really do need to appreciate, and we actually spoke about whether he would retire at the end of the year or say that Jared Waite, he was spectacular.
It was a late inclusion.
He was a late inclusion. As soon as I saw that late inclusion, I thought this could either make Carlton's game or it could break Carlton's game. So he was spectacular, and he showed us what he can do when he's on song.
Well, I've called it somewhat a resurrection game.
Oh, yeah.
Because all of a sudden he's a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah, all of a sudden there's teams lining up.
There's
to
teams
supposedly-
lining up
Yeah.
to take his services.
Supposedly, yeah.
But
Bryce, I don't see why not. Like, he's attacking the ball. His tackling pressure was enormous.
well, I stand for a very long time, the last probably 3-4 years, that he's been their most important player.
I'd agree with that.
And this year he's probably dropped away from
He's
that.
played back, he's played forward.
Absolutely, but that game there against North Melbourne showed why he was so important because he was able to leap and jump at the ball, take big contested marks and kick goals.
Correct. And one other guy who's making a big case for Carlton's most important player, Bryce Gibbs.
Having a terrific season.
He's had a great season.
All Australian contention.
Absolutely. We spoke about I spoke about earlier in the year how I thought he needed a change.
Yeah.
But not now. I mean, he's having, again, a consistent year.
And what you'll notice is both Gibbs and Murphy are getting a lot of contested ball now. They're tackling really, really well.
Yep.
And it was a couple of weeks ago where Mark Murphy took a mark running back with the flies.
Against St. Kilda,
A really courageous mark that I probably wouldn't have seen him take last year or the year before.
Boys, before we move on, Cameron Wood was also fantastic as well for his first game for the Carlton Football Club.
I always love it when they do that after they've been ridiculed for being upgraded.
Yeah, absolutely. He was fantastic against Goldstein. I mean, Goldstein had 43 hitouts himself. But Cameron Wood had 26 hitouts, 10 disposals, 7 marks and a goal.
Doing a bit of a Stefan Martin, isn't he?
Absolutely. But when Carlton are on, they play exciting footy.
They do.
But the frustrating thing is, where has it been all year?
They're a bit like Richmond, aren't they?
They are.
They show very good footy in patches, and then all of a sudden they go to sleep.
Well, boys, can they do it this week?
I give him a massive chance.
Do you? Really?
I give him a really massive
He
chance.
says that, and then he'll tip Fremantle by 5 goals.
Well, you do the same, but...
No, I don't.
I'm just going the safe tip now.
So you're doing a Geisen?
No. But I think Fremantle will win.
Yeah.
But
big surprise, yeah.
I give Carlton a massive chance.
Do we get a margin?
How many do you think?
21.
All right, but he gives Carlton a massive chance. He does.
I do.
But they'll only win by 21 points.
21 points is nothing.
All right, okay.
Guys, I'll go next. I've got Fremantle by 26.
Yep, Freo to get it done by about 20 points as well, boys.
Sydney versus the Bombers. All of a sudden, this is a big, big game. Friday night at the SCG. Last time those two teams played, Sydney by 50 points. The Swans have won the last 3. I'll get it out eventually. Sydney off the rebound, Josh. How's that sound?
We'll talk about the Swans first before we get to my boys. But they'll be fuming after they lost to Hawthorn. They led for the majority of the game and then let 7 goals in that last quarter. Third quarter, sorry.
Third quarter, yep.
Not 7 goals in.
7.
They went up by 7 goals.
No, they let 7
They
goals.
let 7
Oh,
goals.
I thought you meant they
Worst quarter of the
I
year.
thought you said led 7 goals.
No,
No way, yeah.
They let 7 goals
Yeah,
in.
correct, yes.
Which John Longmire would not be happy about.
Yep.
I mean, teams at the
You
top...
wouldn't imagine you would be, no?
No, teams at the top would pride themselves on defence.
Oh, well, early in the third quarter, as you mentioned, they were up by 21 points. And Hawthorn looked to have lost all the momentum because Sydney kicked a goal to close the second quarter. And then Hawthorn come out thinking we need to get the first to the third. Bang, Sydney get it. And all of a sudden you think Swans probably won't lose it from here.
Yep.
21 points is, for teams of that quality, you'd think it'd be enough. But you're right, they did let Hawthorn come back in. Mind you, the Hawks played extremely well to get back into the game. They were a quality side and they showed us why People say they're the number one team in the AFL.
They were probably the loser of the best game of the year, I reckon.
Probably.
That was a fantastic game.
Big story of the game, of course, was Buddy Franklin, as you expected it to be. I think he threatened to break the game apart at stages. He had a lot of shots early, which he could have slotted.
Yeah, I couldn't understand Hawthorn's method early on, letting him get so much easy ball.
Oh, he had so much space a couple of
He had
times.
an uncontested mark inside 50. I think what they were doing was Josh Gibson was playing on him but zoning off him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Angus Litherland would take over him whenever Josh Gibson zoned off. Because as we know, Josh Gibson's not just a stay-at-home defender. He's a good user of the ball and he can
They've got some problems when Brian Lake isn't in that side.
They do. But mind you, Angus Litherland is not a bad player, but...
This is Sydney.
This is Sydney, yeah.
Sorry, but to put him on Buddy Franklin, I was just about to say, is a big task. Buddy, again, what I'm going to say is that, yes, he kicked, I think, 2-5 in the end.
3-5.
3-5. But a lot of those behinds, he was having shots at goal from what I believe to be ridiculous angles. Or what maybe only Buddy could kick.
I think it's in the range that he would back himself.
I think so, but I think they should go to Tippett more because what happens is Buddy leads out onto a flank, 55 metres out, and they go to him. Instead of going to Tippett, who's one out in the goal square. You see what I'm saying?
One player who was very good for the Swans, I thought, was Ben McGlynn.
Absolutely, he had 3 goals, 23 disposals.
Oh, he's just
another former Hawk that played at the Swans, so he was
up to his old side, didn't he?
Absolutely, and he was fantastic, and he's having a very good season, averaging 21 disposals this year. That's 5 more than what he had last year.
Oh, wow.
So he's taking his game to another level. But just quickly back on Franklin, his form against the Bombers just scares me big time.
I'm really excited to watch this
His
week.
last 8 games, listen to this: 5, 8, 5, 5, 5, 9, 4, 9.
Tell you what, guys, I know how I'm tipping this.
What did he kick against you this year, the last time?
5.
Tell you what.
Scary.
But having said that, your defence, the Essendon defence is doing very
It's been our strongest point all year,
Yes.
and I'll keep harping that. We've conceded 100 points twice this year.
And the Swans do have Hanbury to come back this week.
Hanbury
And possibly
Reece
Shaw, yeah.
Possibly Reece Shaw.
So I'll get some run off that half-back flank and some grunt. in
Moving
that
on to the
midfield.
Bombers, they just got past the Dogs. 7 points was the final margin.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't. It was one of those games where I actually thought the better team lost on the day.
Okay.
I agree.
thought the Western Bulldogs
Definitely.
were the better team on the day.
They look like they had game 1 at start.
Absolutely.
The Jake Carlisles did a really good job to beat the...
We've got our own Buddy Franklin now.
That game was more or less just Jake Carlisle for me. If he had not played that game, Essendon would have lost comfortably.
Oh, comfortably. Absolutely.
So-
I mean, we lost Joe Danaher early before the game, sorry.
Before the game. He's
With a
having
shoulder
surgery on his shoulder now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out for 3-4 weeks, so...
Yeah.
That's a big loss because he is so important to our structure.
But what we were saying is that Carlisle needs to do it against a good side.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Isn't this just the number one
I was about to
opportunity?
say, if Carlisle kicks 3 or 4 goals this week, I think we owe Josh a bit of an apology.
No, well, if he kicks 3 goals, I'm not apologising to anyone. If he kicks 4 or more...
I think 4,
Then
4
yes.
is the
4
goals,
is the
Josh.
benchmark. Yes.
4 goals.
We
Come
give
on,
him an
Buckets.
apology.
If Buckets can...
Let's just reiterate that I've always said that he's a forward. These two have hounded me off air saying that he's a defender.
I haven't been that houndy. The others have hounded you a lot more. I've always said the key
But
force
what's his recent form been? He's kicked 8 in
Thank
the
you,
most
Josh.
recent game.
It's that man over
We
there.
touched on it last week. He's kicked 12 goals, 31 marks, 17 inside 50, 13 contested.
Nuts.
Just unbelievable. Yeah, I'm not comparing him. Just relax, but it is Wayne Carey.
Oh,
I'm not comparing.
You heard it here first. Josh Rickard thinks that Jake Carlisle is Wayne Carey.
I'm not comparing him.
Oh, no.
If you're watching the show and you just missed what happened, Josh Rickard, rewind, he just said, I quote, Jake Carlisle is better than Wayne Carey. That's exactly what he said. And I think it's just disgraceful
Anyway,
to say that.
we
But
better move on.
Moving on to the Jake Carlisle show.
Paddy
Patrick
White was fantastic against Wilmington.
Yes.
He's in our team around this week for the first time this year as the ruck. Can't believe you two just went with that, but anyway. Having his most consistent yet.
Yes.
Consistency seems to be the word of the show. But before we give our tips, our interstate record is very, very good.
Before we get some Polly Farmer comparisons with Patrick Rudd.
I'm about to walk off.
We'll start calling him Dean Cox.
Oh, we're kidding. Josh isn't trying to suggest anything in this one.
However, it is a massive challenge going up to Sydney. They touched us up there last year. They touched us up earlier this year.
They did.
So it's going to be a massive, massive challenge. In terms of our finals aspect, settle down. They did.
Continue.
In terms of our final aspects, we're playing some very, very good football at the moment.
Definitely are, yep.
However, we must stay within 5 goals, I think, to keep that. What are you looking at?
Well, you'd hope so to win the game. You have to keep within 5 goals.
What did I say?
No, he wants to
No,
stay
you're
within
right.
5 goals for it to be a pass mark in this game.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So your eyes is not on the win. Your eyes are on...
Keeping
Well,
close.
I'd take the win, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, but I'm a realist. Sydney's going to be a very tough game. They're coming off the rebound. It's a perfect opportunity to get them because they're coming up against... they played Hawthorn, 6-day break.
Sorry, Vinay's just giving me a look across the table.
I'm not giving him any looks. Continue.
You two are
6-day break.
We'll struggle our way through
Sydney by 29. I'm just going to move on to Essendon.
Sorry, Josh.
Sydney touched it last time. I think they'll do it again this time. Sydney by about 5 goals.
Yeah, I can't go past Sydney. They've...
You said touched up. They'll touch you up. They'll beat you.
5 goals is not a touch-up.
Yes,
Sydney will want to bounce back.
You don't think 5 goals is a touch-up?
No.
All right, I'll let you finish.
Sydney will want to bounce back, boys, after losing last week. I will tip them by 4 goals, Josh.
Beautiful.
24 points.
400.
I'd be happy with that.
Adelaide versus West Coast, Saturday afternoon at Adelaide Oval. Last time these two teams played, it was Adelaide by 86 points, if you don't mind, Vinay. Adelaide, what a huge win that was. Defeated Collingwood by 16 points.
That was a brilliant game. I watched all of that game and I loved watching the way Adelaide played.
Yep.
I said last week that Adelaide have got a lot of run and I did specifically mention one man. Josh, who was that?
Brody
Smith.
Correct. And he made me look good, did Brody Smith. He made himself look good. He made the Adelaide Football Club look good. He had 24 touches, 2 goals and 100% disposal efficiency.
Yep.
That is unheard of. And along with Matty Yench and Ricky
Can we not
Henderson,
play that down? 100% disposal efficiency.
Oh, his run was absolutely spectacular.
Anything with about 15 disposals or more going
Yeah,
at 100%.
No, but what we need to realise is
phenomenal.
Guess which side averages the most pressure acts?
Of these two teams.
I'll go Adelaide.
Collingwood.
Yes.
So to have 100% disposal efficiency against the side that has the most pressure acts of any club,
That's a very good point.
that's a very, very good statistic when you're interpreted that way. So he had a stellar game. Texas Walker.
Are you reading my notes?
No, I'm not. I swear I'm not. I'm just going by what I've seen in the match.
Okay.
Go on.
Texas Walker, I think a couple of weeks ago I was feeling that, probably a bit premature, but I felt that he hadn't really hit his straps, but he showed us what he can do when he's in form.
I think once he gets a full pre-season under him, we'll see the old Tex. We'll see the we'll see the mullet back. We'll see him kick
He'll be
50.
monstering the defenders around.
We'll see him challenge for the Colwyn.
Yeah.
He gets a full pre-season under him, he'll be fine.
Another rebounding defender who was great for the Crows today.
Matthew Yench. He was an absolute superstar, Yenchy.
They've got the best rebounding halfback.
I agree. I think they've got the best half-back line in the AFL. I'll say now.
I wouldn't say halfback. I'll say rebounding halfback.
Yes. That's what I mean.
Suckling and Birch will say hello.
No.
Oh, but Brody Smith and Matty Yench, I'd like them.
I think Brody Smith's probably...
Yes, All-Australian.
Probably the...
Give me Suckling and Birchall any day.
Now, the commentator specifically
No disrespect to...
Commentator specifically said...
What club do Suckling and Birchall play for?
Oh, bugger off!
What club do they play for?
Josh has got his Hawthorn jersey on again this week. Anyway, we'll move on. The commentator specifically said... No, sorry, Josh. We're about to see what Adelaide are made of, whether or not they deserve to play finals. They really showed us that they do deserve to play finals.
I think so, yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, they can cause some real problems.
If they finish eighth, that is going to be the best elimination final.
Adelaide Oval finish fifth.
Adelaide finish fifth. 5th versus 8th, Adelaide Oval. That's going to be absolutely
That would be an absolute star. But
anyway, moving on to the West Coast Eagles.
The Eagles, yes. A lackluster, insipid performance by the Eagles. I thought. I actually posted a very long analysis of what's wrong with West Coast on one of these West Coast pages, and I had a lot of people.
Jeez, you would have had a lot of things to say there.
A lot. Actually, I did. Plenty. And West Coast have to enter a mode where they've already gone back to fundamentals. Adam Simpson has said the rest of the season, the focus is just on basics.
Yeah.
Which, if that doesn't tell you what their mindset is right now, nothing else will.
No.
Matty Prittis is probably getting some sore shoulders.
Matty Prittis probably deserves a week off, a month off, the way he's been playing.
Give me one word to describe him.
Exceptional.
Vinay put him up for trade this week. He thinks he doesn't deserve to play.
He doesn't. The way he's
West
playing,
Coast.
he doesn't deserve what West Coast is churning out.
Yeah.
He had 30 disposals, 18 tackles, 9 clearances, 8 inside 50s, and I tell you what, it was scary to watch.
It's been a disappointing season really because that side has got a lot of quality players.
That's what I've failed to understand the whole year. There was a lot of quality in that side, but it's first of all the run out of halfback has been pathetic. Shannon Hearn's copped a tag, and that's it. So it's really, really showing that Beau Waters is not playing.
Yeah.
And you go back and you look at West Coast results. The seasons that Waters has played, they finished 5th and 7th, I think.
Yeah.
So he definitely helps them a lot. But you can't use that as an excuse. Nick natted 50 hitouts. First time he's done that in his career, so that was a really, really good performance.
Josh doesn't think he impacted the game enough.
Well, he was probably fishing a bit there when he said that. But
Was he?
probably.
I was, but I wasn't.
Okay.
Or were you or not?
Well, I think that Nic and Vinay did. It's very hard to have 50 headouts and not impact the game.
Yeah.
Especially early on in the game, he was.
I think the
all
point was that Richmond won the clearances there.
Yeah. So it was just a poor performance overall. Luke Shuey, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in doubt with an ankle. Played out the game, but wasn't comfortable at all. So he's in a bit of doubt. And Shannon Hearn was the captain for the second time since Glass's retirement.
Correct.
Surely in the box.
We did go over this last week, and I did tip him to be the next captain.
Yep.
I would see that happening again because West Coast do like this idea of having a defender as captain, as you can see from there.
Yep.
Adelaide overall, guys. Who's going to win this one?
Adelaide by 34 for me. Sam Jacobs plays game at 100. Just been a fantastic player. All Australian ruckman for me this year.
Yep. I agree. Adelaide to win the game for me, boys. I think they'll get it done by about 5 goals.
I'm gonna say Adelaide by 7 goals. Actually, I think they'll be spurred on by last week's performance
and confident.
The weekend's performance, very confident, and they'll want to secure a final spot.
That forward line is going to pose some massive questions for your defence. I mean,
undermanned defence at the moment.
Walker, Podsy, Adelaide, Lynch, and Jenkins.
And Betts.
It's one of the best forward lines in the comp.
Well, West Coast have been reasonably well, actually, with their defensive work this year. I think the defence is probably the only thing that's worked for them.
Yeah, Eric McKenzie's been great for them.
I'll be interested to see how that goes.
Richmond versus GWS, Saturday afternoon at the MCG. Last time these two teams met, it was Richmond by 113 points. The Tigers won the only 3 games between these two sides. Richmond, we just talked about, they defeated West Coast by 17 points on the weekend.
Yeah, they were fantastic. I must say that I was very, very confident in actually tipping them last week because they do play Patterson Stadium very well. And
interestingly, I looked into that. They've actually lost 9 out of their last 12 encounters at Patterson's. It's just only recently.
Very recent
play well.
Yeah, well, I went on recent form.
Yeah, right. I think I've just caught you out, but anyway. Continue.
Well, no, you haven't. They've been close losses.
They've done well. We'll move on from that.
Yes, they have won their last 4.
Yes,
and they're leaving it too late. They're playing some terrific football. Brett Delidio, Dustin Martin, and the man we've been on since the beginning, Anthony Miles.
Yes.
Averaging 27 disposals a game since he's coming to the side.
Just quickly on Dusty, I know he's very dangerous wherever he plays on the ground, but I love him as a forward.
He's dangerous off the ground as well, ain't he?
We won't say that.
Just go there. You didn't just go there.
It's all just good fun.
I think he's wasted as a forward, but I love watching him play there because he's one-on-one. He's just good.
He reminds me so much of Dane Swan.
Very similar, yeah.
His disposal at times is not great. I think he had 11 clangers on the weekend.
Yeah.
So his disposal isn't always perfect, but his one-on-one work in that forward line, he's just so powerful. He can take a key defender, and he can take marks and kick goals. So.
Absolutely. As I said, Anthony Miles, 25 disposals a game, coming up against his old side this week, so he may have a little bit of a point to prove. We touch on the news and views. Tyler and Vickery, just stupid and dumb what he did.
Won't be there this week.
Probably won't be there for the rest of the season. That's just my view. But who comes in for him? They've got Aaron Edwards. Lee McBean is a strong chance.
McBean.
I'm hearing the Bean is the preferred choice there.
Mr. Bean. I'd probably go Aaron Edwards, to be honest.
Yeah.
In the couple of games that he's played for Richmond, he's shown something.
Yeah.
I think Richmond haven't actually given him a proper chance.
Okay.
And, they're not going to make the finals anyway, so I think this is a good chance to see if they can get it in.
From what I've seen from Aaron Edwards, I mean, I watched him in a VFL game this year, and he doesn't seem to do a lot of the defensive work.
Yeah.
He always sit back and gets the one over the top.
Correct.
Now, sometimes it works. On that day it did. I think he kicked 5.
Yeah.
But that was in the VFL. You do that in the AFL, you're going to get caught out. And I think that's his biggest problem.
I think it's worth a shot, though, because they're sitting on a good key forward, a decent key forward. And what's Richmond's problem at the moment? Hey, presto, finding good key forwards.
Yeah.
So they may as well give him a shot.
Moving on to the Giants, boys. They fought very hard against the Cats. 7 points they went down by in the end. They trailed by 30-something late in the last quarter. So they did very well to
they came
game.
Roaring back.
They probably should have won. If they had taken their chances in the last quarter.
Could have, would have.
Didn't.
That is the key here.
Absolutely. But they should have won.
Okay.
They had plenty of opportunities to win that game.
I think if they did win that game, it would have been a case of the better team lost.
Yep.
But I think they definitely could have won that game. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
If they'd taken their chances.
Boys, we saw a glimpse of the future.
Tom Boyd in his second game, I believe it was.
Third, I think.
Was it?
Third.
Okay.
No, he's played more than that. Probably his 4th, isn't it?
No.
2, 3, 4. In that vicinity.
Somewhere,
Under 5.
Yeah. Hasn't played many games.
But Boyd and Patton, with Cameron out of the side for the rest of the year, kicked 4 goals between them.
Boyd took some great marks. It was against a very good side, but they showed some great signs there.
Absolutely. So you can see the talent there. It's just going to take
with
these taller players. we always say they take it a bit longer to develop.
Exactly. Tom Boyd, the one thing I've noticed about him is that he's he's still maybe, as you mentioned, key forwards always take time to develop.
Yeah.
But the way that he goes about his marking, is very, very similar to what you would see in the under-18s.
Yeah.
He sort of expects the ball to be kicked in a good area and he wants to outmuscle his opponent. But once the ball hits the deck, he's not as strong. And at AFL level, he's not always going to be able to mark the ball because he's going to come across against better, bigger key defenders.
Yeah.
He's got to develop his ground level game and be more agile. Jeremy Cameron, how good was he at his ground level game?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what Tom Boyd needs to do.
Yeah.
And he will become a bigger threat.
Boys, if there's one kid I want from either Gold Coast or GWS at this stage, forgetting potential, his name is Adam Treloar.
Yep.
Adam Treloar, he is an absolute gun.
You do have a bit of a man crush on him, Josh?
He doesn't bring out the word gun very often, so you've got to take notice when he says it.
He brings it out all the time.
No, he doesn't like
Only
it.
when it's warranted.
Okay.
But Treloar has definitely been a shining light for the GWS.
26 disposals this year, average.
26 disposals for the year.
Average. He averaged 21 last year.
I think one and a half a game, I think.
And he's a gun.
He is a carbon copy of Joel Selwood. That's all I want to say. He's a carbon copy of Joel Selwood.
Good
Not
Noble
quite there
Park
yet.
boy.
He's better than Joel Selwood.
Oh, yeah. Who are we tipping this week, guys?
I'm kidding.
It's meant to be pretty terrible weather on the weekend. At this stage, being Monday, it could change being in Melbourne, but it's meant to be pretty terrible weather, so it might be a bit of a scrappy game. But
Where, in Melbourne or?
Yeah, it's in Melbourne.
Okay. Everywhere, nice.
But I still expect Richmond to get up by about 50 points.
Okay, yep. I think Richmond will be brimming full of confidence, and I tip them by about 30.
I think both teams will be brimming full of confidence. I'll tip Richmond by 25.
No.
Five in a row, that would be for the Tigers. Good way to finish the season. Gold Coast versus St Kilda, Saturday night at Metricon Stadium. Last time those two teams played, it was Gold Coast by 38 points. Now, Gold Coast, we talked about this in news and views at length. They lost to Brisbane by 54 points. That first quarter was really the key there.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. As Nick said, we touched on it in news and views. The differential in that first quarter was just inexcusable.
In almost every stat on the ground, there was some just, as you said, inexcusable things, like 24 marks to 1, I think it was in the first quarter.
Yeah.
There was just simple kicks that they were...
negative 90 in disposals, negative 19 in inside 50s.
Crazy.
It was just an absolute domination.
They were found out in every single one of their weak areas.
They got belted off the park. And I think they lacked leadership. This is what we talked about in news and views, so give that a watch. But what they do is they lacked leadership. They lacked someone on field to give them some direction. They needed someone, after that fourth goal in the first quarter was kicked, someone needed to stop them and say, hang on, whatever we're doing now, it's not working. And we need to, switch back on and try something different before this quickly becomes the 7-goal deficit that it was in the first quarter.
Guys, Danny Stanley, probably the only
senior head
mentioning that
semi-senior head.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Probably, as Nick said, the only player that can hold his head high on the weekend. I mean, Alex Sexton kicked 3 goals as well, which was a career high. So you can probably make a case for him as well.
Coming up against the Saints, they defeated Fremantle by 58 points. Absolute polar opposites. Gold Coast have had one of the worst losses in their history, and St Kilda's had their best win of the season.
Look, it's a good sport. It's a crazy sport. 3 weeks ago, this would have been the easiest tip you could have ever said.
Yep.
You would have been Gold Coast by 60 points, shut the book, send it off.
Due to one player.
Exactly.
Yep.
But now it becomes so much more difficult. The Saints are full of confidence. And, if they play, it's not just Lenny Hayes. Let's not always just say it's just because of Lenny Hayes. Because they played extremely well last week. Their link-up footy was brilliant. If they play like that again, Gold Coast have got some serious issues.
I'm seeing an identical situation this week to what we talked about last week. Gold Coast, they're coming up against a side which doesn't want the wooden spoon. They're still within a chance to get to finals. There's reasons for both teams to really, really want to win this game.
Yeah.
St Kilda, Nick Riewoldt was absolutely brilliant. That was one of the most complete games as a key forward you will ever see last week.
Key forward, he played as a wingman.
He played everywhere.
I mean, we named him at centre half forward.
He played as a Riewoldt, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Nick Riewoldt plays wherever he wants
so
to.
much of the ground.
Yeah.
He's just a phenomenal footballer.
Athlete. His aerobic capacity is off the charts.
Just fantastic. Boys, Reece Stanley had a breakout game against the Dockers. He took 12 marks, 14 marks, it was, kicked 4 goals.
Yep.
And these goals weren't just inside 15 metres. He was kicking them from 50.
Yep.
Which is just fantastic to see. He's had a lot of potential for a long time. And the last month, we're starting to see it, which is just fantastic. Shane Savage as well, also in the team of the round, found himself on the half-back flank.
Yeah, he's been great the last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
A lot of people at the start of the year looked at the trade of Shane Savage for Ben McAvoy
With some draft picks in there.
With some draft picks in there, thinking, what's going on here? I think it was one draft pick, and that was pick 18, which turned
But how well has it worked out for both clubs?
Yeah, turned out to be Luke Dunstan.
Yeah, well, I think, as you said, it's a win-win. You know, St Kilda have got... what are we talking about? Savage, who's doing great for them at the moment. We've also got Dunstan, who we're just about to talk about, who's been great all year. Big chance for the rising star. I think they'll be very happy with how this has worked out for them.
Absolutely. Like as you said, Luke Dunstan's just having a terrific year.
Yeah.
I think he's up there in the clearances at the club, 1 or 2
Yeah,
in the clearances at the club.
One man that I want to mention is Sam Fisher.
Yep.
He's come back and he's been superb for the Saints. He was brilliant last week against Fremantle. He was really good in his first week back as well.
Yep.
He's been really, really good off that half-back flank, and they've needed some kind of structure coming out of defence. They've tried Jimmy Webster, they've tried Sean Dempster, Jimmy Gwilt. Sam Fisher's the man that was doing it in their 2010 a grand final year.
Yep.
And he's back now, and he's allowing the others to go back to their normal roles. And let's not forget the brilliant effort of Luke Delaney.
Yep.
He's been just unbelievable this year.
He's been a great
Bit of an unsung hero.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yep.
He's been very, very good. Who are we
Guys,
tipping, boys?
up at Metricon, who are we tipping?
I just want to touch on one quick thing with the Gold Coast that I missed. The numbers on Swallow, Presio and O'Meara have been rolled down in the last 2 games since Adelaide's gone out. They allowed too much space for Hanley and Rockcliffe.
Oh, too much. They had
We'll go into Hanley and
102
Rockcliffe.
disposals between them.
We'll go into Hanley... 89.
Oh,
We'll go into Hanley and Rockcliffe soon.
Later on, yeah.
But they're missing Trent McKenzie and Cade Colajasny off half-back. They give so much run and drive. They're just so important to
and they
them.
will continue to miss them for this week.
Absolutely. Up at Metricon, Gold Coast by 1.
One. Jeez.
Gee, I hope my maths teacher wasn't watching me make that little gaff there. But anyway, I am going to tip the St Kilda Saints.
Really?
I am. I'm going to tip them. I think they are going to be brimming with confidence. That kind of win
They're
will
at the
do...
Fortress. Remember?
Oh, yeah, but the Fortress didn't really do much for them a couple of weeks ago against the Doggies. Oh, hang on, that wasn't at the Fortress.
That wasn't at the Fortress.
Oh, interesting. Oh, now you've got me thinking. Nick, you go first. I'll work it out.
I'm going to tip Gold Coast. I think they've had the roasting of a lifetime from Guy McKenna this week. Zach Smith especially would have had the roasting of a lifetime. I'm going to say Gold Coast by 38. But I do give St Kilda a chance.
Hang on. He's tipped Gold Coast by 40 points and he gives St Kilda
That's
a
what I
chance.
don't like about you two. You always say I give them a chance, and then you tip them
It
by some
wouldn't be the most
gargantuan
ridiculous thing in
margin.
the world if St Kilda came close, but I do think it will go the other way.
I'm
Who are you tipping?
going to tip the Saints by 10 points, boys. I think that kind of confidence does wonders. And their team on paper right now looks a lot better than Gold Coast, especially considering Trent McKenzie and Cade Colajasny are playing. But that might change.
How quick was that?
It was quick. That might
I
change.
catch
I
any
might
of
change that tip. I might change it.
Okay.
For now, I'm going Saints.
We will move on.
Next game.
North Melbourne versus Geelong. Big game. Saturday night at Etihad Stadium. Last time those two teams played, it was Geelong by 20 points. Guys, North Melbourne, they lost to Carlton by 23 points.
Boys, as you know, I'm not even a supporter. In fact, I dislike them the most of any other side.
Really?
I got
didn't know that.
Probably
no shame in saying that.
Okay.
I'm not the greatest fan of North Melbourne,
I don't mind them.
but they are just so frustrating to watch.
Oh, so frustrating.
And I
Especially if you're a North supporter.
Exactly. I cannot imagine North supporters going through that every single week, not knowing which North Melbourne are going to turn up. And no one will take them seriously until they start playing some consistent football.
It's a good point. But this game, I tell you what, I'm going to have trouble tipping this because
So am I.
I reckon North is a big chance to
Because
get
they're
that.
playing a
definitely
side
agree
above
with
them.
And if it was at Skilled Stadium, this would be an easy tip for me. Sorry, Simmons Stadium. But at Etihad, North have a very good track record.
I think of the last 4, it's 2 apiece between those two teams.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also the fact that North have beaten all top 4 sides tells me that they are what are they called? They hunt the best sides. I'm sure there's a term for it, but they do go after the big
Giant killers.
That's it, giant killers. That's what they are.
Haven't
So
beaten Geelong this season.
they haven't beaten Geelong this season. That's interesting. So
Who
the Cats
who
will
are
be
a top 4 side.
so the Cats will be up against it this
Beaten
week.
4 of the top 5 sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but now they get a chance to do it in their own home territory. So I'm baffled.
I think I've got about 2 North Melbourne tips all year.
Yeah,
Correct.
I think we all have.
You just don't know what to expect from them. The supporters say it every week. You know, sometimes they turn up, sometimes they don't. I just don't know what to put it down to.
Well, last week I think Carlton just outran them, played much better footy than them. Their link-up footy was better. Their forwards played much better. Lockie Henderson was spectacular. Cade Simpson was allowed way too much room off that half-back flank.
Yeah.
Well, he just chopped them up through the middle.
Well, I'll tell you, that's what North Melbourne, that's where they always hurt Geelong. They're running spread off half-back. You just see players spread everywhere, and they've got quick kicks, quick handballs. That's what's really killed us in the past. I'm sure that's the game style they'll come in with this week. It'll be interesting to see how the Cats counter that.
Boys, I think Aaron Black needs a spell as well. He's just nowhere near the player that he was last year.
Yep.
He's just really struggling this year.
It's hard to even notice him in the games. That's how little an impact he's having. You cannot even notice that he's on the actual park.
Before we move on to the Cats, 13 of North Melbourne's 22 players on the weekend had 2 tackles or less.
That's not a stat you'd be proud of.
That's not good.
That is just horrible. And there was a common trend between the players as well. I mean, I can't remember them all, but I looked at it before and there's a common trend.
Yep.
And they're all running half-backs that like to run one way.
Yeah. Well, Boom
Downhill
Harvey's been
skills.
a culprit of that.
Harvey was up there in the tackles.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Well, he's going to have to pull out a big game if they're going to top Geelong. On the other side, the Cats, I watched the whole game, actually.
Yep.
Because one, Nicholas Geisen wasn't able to watch it.
Have watched the replay since.
He has, he's a good supporter. But the Cats were, they were the Cats. They came out firing. The Cats, here's a good stat for you that I dug. I was doing some study before the game because I like to get into the games. But Geelong are the best first quarter team this year. Okay. They've kicked more goals in the first quarter than any other club has.
Yep. And I'd say we're the worst third quarter side of any competition.
Yes, so they like to go hard early, the Cats. They really realise how good or how important a good start is. They realise that very, very strongly. And Steve Johnson, he has hit some form. His last 4 weeks have been spectacular.
He's averaging just on 30 disposals, 2 or 3 goals every game. He's been absolutely brilliant.
We talk about Brownlows.
Yeah.
We've had him best on ground 6 times this year.
That's nuts.
That is nuts. But that's the only voice he's got. He sits on 18 at the moment.
Okay.
We can sneak a couple of 1s or 2s in there. Might come the end of Brownlow night where he's on top.
He's on top.
And he's ineligible.
But he's ineligible.
Well, he's just a magician.
He was in some poor form before these last 4 games. I think he had a bit of a niggling back injury, Chris Scott said, but he's really turned things around. Joel Selwood, once again, was absolutely brilliant. Same as Johnson. He was in some poor form and he's really hit his straps. And Harry Taylor was also having a bit of a stinker of a season after re-signing last year. And he's, the last 3 games... He's had some really poor games this season.
He has had some, not to the standard of what you would want from Harry Taylor anyway.
But having said that, the last 3 games are up there with the 3 best games of his career. He's having 20, 23, 25 disposals each week and, laying 9 spoils, stuff like that. So he's been great.
A couple of the games I liked against Gito was Mitch Duncan.
Yep.
Was very good. And he's consistently been good.
He's stepped it up another level.
And a lot of people talk about, Stephen Motlop, Stevie Johnson as playmakers. I honestly think this guy's as much of a playmaker and worthy as a tag, as those two, because he is so damaging with that disposal. He gets a lot of inside 50s, he sneaks forward, he kicks goals. He's very damaging.
Well, we discussed the other week, the prospect of Motlop getting a tag and there's an extra player to tag there, but now it's Selwood, Johnson, Duncan and Motlop.
Yes.
There's starting to be some great midfielders there who can warrant that tag,
Before we give our tips, I feel there's one player that's just so underrated in this competition. Mm-hmm. I prefer him actually as a midfielder and not a tagger.
Yep. Okay.
Cam Guthrie. He's just definitely a superb footballer. And I'm not making comparisons again, but he looks a lot like a young Gary Ablett.
Well,
no, that's...
Cam Guthrie had a breakout year. I think it was a breakout game. I think it was against Gold Coast. I can't remember which round it was. I think it was against Gold Coast.
I think it was too. Yes, I remember. Yeah,
but he's done some Gary Ablett-like things. There's a couple of things just heading to half forward. I don't want to say it.
Well, he's very good. He's a very good player.
He's the best prospect in the team.
This is the second week in a row that we've potentially picked a future Gary Ablett. Last week it was Lewis Taylor. This week it's Cam Guthrie. But next week it'll be Jeremy Govan. Tune in. But
if there's a young player in the Geelong side who will one day be top 10 in the competition, if I had to pick, I'd say Cam Guthrie without a doubt. He's our best young prospect.
Ironically, wears the number 29 as well.
Yeah.
One of the North players that we need to touch on, I think North Melbourne will win the inside ball here. In the contested possession count, Geelong have got to do something because Ben Cunnington, Andrew Swallow are very, very good extractors. And they've got Nick Dalsano as well, who runs off a wing and can play in that midfield role.
I think Cam Guthrie will go to him.
Yes, I agree. But the main area here Geelong need to really target North is those inside ball wins.
We need to move on, but just quickly, afl.com.au had an article during the week. I know it's stating the obvious, but it's the biggest stat differential between wins and losses for Geelong. and contested possessions, as you said.
Yes.
In the games they win, there's a huge differential to the games they lose with contested possessions there.
Yep.
That's the key. Who are you tipping, guys?
I am going to tip... Actually, you guys go first.
I'm going to tip Geelong. It's just too important a game to lose. They want that home qualifying final, top 2. I think they'll win by 21 points.
James Kelly, game 250. I'm surprised that one slipped through the keeper.
That's your job.
Has he played for that long, has he?
Yeah,
Played for a
apparently.
while.
Wow.
And Lee Adams plays game at 100.
Got on your patch.
I agree with Nick. Just too important for Geelong in that top 4 area, especially with teams breathing down their neck.
Yep.
Geelong by 10 points.
I'm going to tip North.
Oh,
Yes. I'm going to join in the chorus. And I'm going to sing nice and loud. And I'm going to tip North. They're giant killers. Plain and simple. This is the game that they'll win. This is just the kind of game they'll win. And Geelong against GWS last week were good, but then they almost let them through the door.
Yeah.
almost.
So I'm going to tip North because I think that if that door remains slightly ajar, North will just slip through it and they'll close it behind them and they'll win.
I don't think he wants to win the tipping competition. I think that's what's going on.
Well, I've got to take risks at this stage.
Yeah.
Guys. Only 5 rounds.
Anyway,
So I'm going to go, but I might change that. But North, as of now, by, a point.
Melbourne versus Brisbane, Sunday afternoon at Etihad Stadium. Last time those two teams played, it was Brisbane by 19 points. Brisbane have won the last 4 between these two sides. And Melbourne, I think, have lost the last 23 at Etihad Stadium.
Lost the last 21.
21.
Sure.
21 games. Last game they won was against the Western Bulldogs in 2007.
You tell you what, Josh, you're digging deep, aren't you, for these?
He's come prepared this
He's
week.
trying to rival Vinay as the
come-
stats man
Oh,
of the
I
show.
tell you what, he's digging deep.
Melbourne, they really
Tell me when you hit
challenged.
some oil, Josh.
Melbourne really challenged Port Adelaide. They lost by 3 points. Dom Tyson once again.
Dom Tyson
Was absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely, 32 disposals, 2 goals. He's up there with the recruit of the year.
Yes.
He's just been phenomenal. A lot of people raise their eyebrows at bringing Dom Tyson in for pick 2.
Yep.
It's worked wonders. Christian Salem came with him with pick 9. He's just been absolutely phenomenal this year as Dom Tyson. So he's
Dom Tyson.
But again, another team that should have won this game.
Yeah.
Should have, would have, could have, didn't. But had their chances. Jack Watts had an amazing third quarter. Went missing in the last. That's just the player we've come to know as Jack Watts.
It's a true Jack Watts style.
I think he had 14 disposals in that third
Oh,
quarter.
he was unbelievable.
Finished with 20 for the game. So where was he for the other 3 quarters? Just
He was a number 1 draft pick for that quarter, and he was a 3rd round draft pick for the other quarter.
Correct.
So that's what he was doing.
I tell you what, there was some huge players for the Brisbane Lions on the weekend. They won by 54 points over Gold Coast. Hanley was huge. I think he had something like
45
Hanley had
touches.
45, Rockcliffe had 47.
He had something like 1,200 metres gained for the game.
He had a kilometre gained, yeah.
That's crazy.
That's unbelievable.
Rockcliffe, I think, with Ablett out, is the best midfielder in the competition right now.
Definitely.
Yep.
With Ablett not playing.
Definitely.
He's averaging
Especially in the last month. Look,
averaging over 40 disposals.
I've come prepared, as usual. Number 1 in disposals, averaging 39. You were close.
This is for the competition.
He's averaging 39.
in the last month. Averaging 39, the number 1 clearance player, the number 1 in tackles,
Tackler, yep.
and
And the
number
number
2
two,
in
yeah.
contested possessions.
I do not doubt at all that he's...
If you're number 1 in any of those stats at any stage in the competition, you're doing absolutely brilliant for
No,
yourself.
but what's
To me,
amazing is
3 of them.
he's
is
getting tags as well. He's not just doing this,
Yeah.
he's getting tagged. But this will be interesting because Paul Roos is the master tagger.
Yeah.
He is the master of
I
tags.
think Paul Rose will pull on a jersey and run out there and follow around himself.
Paul Roos will evaluate what needs to be done, and he's
Yeah.
got some good tags in that team, so he'll get onto it.
Another player, Zorko. Absolutely terrific.
Just
The magnifique.
phenomenal. I mean, the work he does with Josh Green, who plays his 50th game, Josh Green and Lewis Taylor,
Yep.
they've formed a formidable partnership.
Just the words out of my mouth, Josh Graham was brilliant as well.
Absolutely, kicked 3 goals. One quick question I want to ask you before we give our tip. Pierce Hanley's an Irishman.
Yep.
Jim Steins, Ty Canelli
Right.
are the only other 2 I can think of that challenge him. I honestly believe Pierce Hanley is going to be the best Irish recruit this game has ever seen.
Oh, well, if he keeps going the way he is, I honestly think that he still needs to be a lot more consistent.
Yep.
It's very, very easy to play against a Gold Coast side that has no idea what they're doing, picking up uncontested ball off the half-back line.
Yeah.
But to do it against good sides when you're getting a tag is a wholly different thing. That'll get him up to the,
Wholly different thing.
wholly different thing.
Well,
That'll get him up to the level of the Waters or the Enrights or the, those kind of rebounding
Had to
defenders.
throw Bo Waters in there, didn't you?
Well, he's a star. He was an all-star.
Who is tipping?
I'm going to go it's a tough one that Eddie had.
He was an All-Australian, Josh, in 2012. In the one season that he played.
I'm going to say Melbourne, subject to teams on Thursday night. I'll say Melbourne by 2 points. Could go either way.
What are you going to say, Joey?
Brisbane by 3.
I am going to say Melbourne by 3, also subject to teams.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. It's a stab in the dark.
The only reason I'm saying Melbourne is because it's in Melbourne. But having said that, it's at Etihad Stadium.
Brisbane are a bit like North. You don't know where you're going to get from them, so I'm still going to say Melbourne.
Moving on, Hawthorn versus the Western Bulldogs. It's Sunday afternoon at Aurora Stadium. They're home away from home. Last time those two teams met, it was Hawthorn by 19 points, who have won the last 5 between those two teams.
Jordan Lewis is the next captain of this football club.
He's a great player.
Well, he's quite old.
Huh?
He's quite old.
He's 28 or 29.
Yeah.
I still think he'll be the next
Pretty
captain.
often captain. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. It was great. When they're down, when they are up.
35 disposals. He was just extraordinary.
He's been great. In the absence of Mitchell earlier in the season, he was great.
And even with Mitchell now.
I'll tell you what, that goal that Piopolo kicked just before half-time.
Populo, yes.
Popopolo.
Yeah.
That kick by Jordan Lewis is
That was
so
smart.
underrated.
That was so smart. I was watching that, and that is literally just knowing what your teammates are
That is
capable of.
knowing... you took the words out of my mouth. That is knowing your teammates.
Yes, that was... And, the vision to see it's Paul Piopolo. And the thing was, Paul Piopolo was actually behind his man at that time.
Yep.
But Lewis, torped it out in front of him, gave him a good chance to catch up.
Yep.
And it was the smartest thing that he's a brilliant footballer, Geordie Lewis.
Absolutely.
Another player who was great, Jared Ruffhead. We talked about earlier how Franklin up the other end threatened to break the game apart. I think Ruffhead did.
Well, I think he won that contest, the Roughhead v Franklin contest. He probably won
of course,
for the night, took the sweets.
Just.
Against a very good Sydney defence. Like, Roughhead was in poor form leading into this match.
Just quickly, I didn't understand why John Longmire took Heath Grundy off the ground as a sub.
Surely there was some kind of injury there.
There had to be.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd think so.
Ruffhead took
Grundy offers too much.
Ruffhead took some vital marks there. That could have cost them the game. If that wasn't injury, that could have been the deciding factor.
Well, the thing about Jared Ruffhead was that he kicked 4-4.
Yeah.
So he could have had a lot more. But what this shows me is that he's hitting some form. A couple of weeks ago, he had no goals and 10 tackles.
Yeah.
And he had just a shocking game in the sense that he wasn't able to impact the
10
scoreboard.
tackles.
It's good, but he had a shocking game in the sense that he couldn't impact the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So now he's finding some form, and what a time to do it.
Boys, I have no shame in saying this. Gary Ablett included. Josh Gibson is the most important player to his team in the competition.
Well, they're a different breed, aren't they, when he's in that side?
There's some candidates, but yeah,
He's
he's
a
up
different
there.
breed.
He's up there.
I reckon he is, but there is some certain candidates up there.
He was actually very, very good. And the thing was, for those watching, he didn't actually play a very strict role on Buddy.
Yeah.
He zoned off him, and Angus Litherland, went to Buddy, which would have been a good learning experience for the youngsters.
But earlier we talked about how they didn't do that quite so well.
They didn't actually execute it very well for a half because Buddy was taking easy uncontested marks.
But in the end, Josh Gibson probably did get them.
Yeah, in the end, I think you'd have to give the sweets to Josh Gibson. I mean, people are saying, but Buddy kicked 3-5.
Kicking's bad football.
If he had his kicking boots on, then he would have, Gibson would have looked awful. But he was kicking those from beyond 50, out in the boundary line. It was just... And bad kicking's bad football.
Anyway, boys.
Just quickly, sorry. Liam Shields is just an underrated gun. 26 disposals.
There's Gun again.
He is.
Gun.
And kept Josh Kennedy to a very minimal impact 25 disposals.
He took Josh Kennedy, he put him in his bag, and he zipped him up.
Correct. Dogs, boys.
Got to move on. The Dogs, they lost to the Bombers by 7 points, but as we said earlier, they were probably the better team across the four quarters. McRae was brilliant, as he has been of late.
Absolutely. I mean, I went to the game a bit naive and a bit ignorant and was expecting probably a 6-7 goal win.
Yep.
But I gained a lot of it. What?
Nothing, continue.
Well, in the form we were in.
Okay, fair enough, yeah.
But I gained a lot of respect for the Western Bulldogs. And this team will have the best midfield in the competition in a couple of years.
Ooh, that's a big call.
Big call.
I don't mind the GWS midfield.
Tom Liberatore,
Yeah, okay.
Jackson McRae,
Bottom tally down
Ryan
there.
Wanton Pally,
Griffin.
Ryan Griffin's only 28 years old.
Only.
Oh, well, he'll still play for another
he's
5
still-
years or
he's
so.
still-
Anyway, the
5-6
midfield will be
years.
up there. They have a great midfield there.
And, they've got Wallace and Picken, who are very good taggers.
Yep.
So, you're right, Josh. I think they are...
Luke Dalhouse.
Yeah, they've got a very, very good team brewing. Once they get that forward line and that defence set, they will be a force to be reckoned with.
Yep.
The Bulldogs.
Exactly right.
Well, that's the two big gaps in the side there. It's worked at some stages this year, hasn't worked at others.
Yeah.
They've threatened to find the right structure there. Before you're going to see them consistently winning games, obviously that's what they need to address.
So, I mean, we didn't touch on it last week because they had the bye, but I'm so disappointed for young Clay Smith.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was there when it actually happened doing my work for the VFL.
And you broke the story, didn't you, Rick?
I did. Thank you. But
wobble.
yes, just so disappointed for him because he's such a classy kid.
Yeah.
And to go down with his second knee Rico is just shattering for him, and I hope he has a speedy recovery.
Boys, who are we tipping this week?
Yeah, I'll tipping the Hawks down at Aurora Stadium. Despite being the better side against the Bombers, I thought their defence was pretty poor.
Yep.
They let Carlisle in a lot of times.
Ridiculous.
A free run at a contested mark.
I think Roughead will ragdoll them if they do that.
Yeah, exactly right. So if they do that again, Hawthorn, Roughead, Gunston, Bruce will just tear them up. Which I think they will, 56 points.
I think Josh Gibson coming back will make it even more better for Hawthorn. Better. It'll make it better. I think Hawthorn will win this by 80 points. I think they'll...
80?
I honestly think they'll flog them because they'll be high on confidence.
And they need
a Sunday game.
They need percentage if they want that top spot.
Yep. So they've got a nice long break. And you're right, they do want that top spot. And this does not get any easier. And a game at Aurora, maybe 80 is a stretch. I'll go 60, but I think they'll flog them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a flogging as well. I'm going to say 52 points. For all the reasons Vinay's just said, and they do desperately need that percentage if they want the top spot.
Yep.
Collingwood versus Port Adelaide is the last game of the round. This is a huge game for both sides. Sunday afternoon at the MCG. Last time these two teams played, it was Port Adelaide by 24 points, guys. Collingwood lost a game they needed to win by 16 points on the weekend.
Absolutely. Eddie loves these 440 time slots.
No, he doesn't. No, he does not.
Just quickly, he needs to be more professional on his show after the game. If they lose.
Well, what did he say?
He's just so down.
He brought it up about 8 times.
He did. He just needs to be more professional.
Anyway,
well, he wears his heart on his sleeve.
He does, but it just looks bad. But anyway,
Dane Beams
was fantastic.
Yep.
Clearly, Collingwood's best player last night.
Definitely.
He kicked 2 goals, had 29 disposals. Good to see him find some terrific form. But what I've noticed about Collingwood in this form slump is their disposal is the worst I've seen it in a long, long time.
Yep.
They're turning the ball over, and it's just inexcusable the way that they're playing their football at the moment. Because we were talking about this side being a top 4, even premiership contender. They don't even look like a final side at the moment.
Yep.
And it's showing.
Well, they were made to look absolutely second best.
Well, I thought they would finish top 4. Going off what they showed us last year.
This is pre-season, yeah.
Why I tipped Adelaide against them, if you guys will remember, is because they don't have a run. And they showed that again against Adelaide. They didn't have a run. They had it it was better than what it was against Essendon. But once they, faced trouble, again, they resorted to, and they got belted in the clearances. They got absolutely taken to the cleaners. In those crucial moments, the one thing you need is what? A clearance. So when you're up by a goal, which they were when Travis Clough kicked that goal, the one thing you need is the clearance. Lock it in that forward 50, get some time off the clock, and, put that pressure on. They lost 2 clearances in a row, and Adelaide kicked 2 goals in, I think it was 30 seconds.
I think Adelaide... Collingwood has won the tackles, they've won the clearances, they've won all the important stats, but they've still found a way to lose this game. Yep. I think Adelaide just took their chances better. As you said, there was 2 vital clearances late in the game. Rory Sloane, I think, had one, and Pods had the other.
Correct.
Yeah. And that was just the difference in the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one man that I thought played well, though, for the Magpies, and I did mention him last week, I thought that if he played well, they'd win. He did play well, but they didn't win, but they almost did. Heritier Lumumba. How good was he, Nick? I'm not sure if you two watched the game.
Like a headless chook out of the back.
How good was he? He was damaging. And
well, you say they lack run. He is the run that they need.
Exactly.
There's just nobody other than
him. He's so difficult to bring down. He picks these a little bit like Dangerfield. He picks it up, he runs off, and it's so hard to tackle him.
But I think he's like Dangerfield, Josh.
No, what I'm saying, his acceleration is like Dangerfield.
Yeah.
His acceleration is, if you watch him closely, he picks it up.
Cannot catch him.
2-3 steps and he's gone. And one thing I want to say is that they threw him in the middle. And they pushed, I think it was Dane Beams forward, and they had Heritier Lumumba in the middle, and he got a couple of clearances. So you never know.
I'm always open to being proven wrong, but I'm sorry, I just don't rate him.
Anyway, we better move on.
Sorry, just quickly, loved Tim Broomhead's game. He had 15 disposals.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah,
he was fantastic.
He was sharp, wasn't he?
He has a little bit of steel side bottom about him.
He does, doesn't he?
A very similar type of player. So
a similar name too.
Yeah,
he does. Yeah, a bit of a silly little name.
Anyway, Port Adelaide, they defeated Melbourne by 3. Survived a scare there. Robbie Gray was brilliant as he always is.
I'll use that word again. Gun. Oh, just a gun.
Gun. The way you say it, it's just so final. Gun. Yeah. But yeah, he was very, very good. I think he had 30 touches.
26.
26. I think he kicked a goal.
Yep.
No, he didn't. He just had 26, but he played very well. Obviously, he had I think 5 score assists.
Yeah,
he was. So that's what you need to know about Robbie Gray. If he's not kicking goals, He's setting them up.
Yeah.
So, and that's something Collingwood have got to look at. Port Adelaide is another club that's lost their run.
Yeah.
So you're looking at two very similar clubs here. And just to throw another spanner in the works, guess what Port Adelaide's Sandford affiliate is called?
Port Adelaide.
The Magpies. Yeah. Okay, so anyway.
Don't think that'll be a factor in this game.
I don't think so. You'd hope not. But anyway, I think Port Adelaide, they've regained some of that run. They were very, very fortunate to beat Melbourne. Very fortunate. I cannot stress that enough. That free kick to Wingard, everyone's been harping on about it. But just in general, that game, I tell you what, Melbourne... Ooh.
Another player probably worth a mention, our producer Justin Westhoff, played a great game for Port Adelaide.
Flies over every week, just helps out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was fantastic as well. What?
He flies over. It's a good joke. Continue.
Go on, Josh.
I lost my train of thought because
Anyway, he was very good.
Well, he's a very good swingman, I think you were going to say. He averages about 18 disposals a game.
Yeah.
Plenty of marks. He kicks goals and he goes back. He's a bit like... He's more like a Podsiadly 2.0. He's a good version of what James Podsiadly's doing at the moment.
Okay. Oliver Wines is certainly not suffering from second-year blues. He's averaging 25 disposals this year as well as 6 tackles. He was fantastic again against the Demons 2 Sundays ago.
It's going to be one of the best midfielders in the competition.
Quadzilla, his name is.
He's not far away from it. Guys, who are we tipping?
On current form, I can't tip Collingwood.
You can't tip him?
Can't tip him. I don't care where this game's played. Just can't tip him at the moment.
Can't tip him?
Can't tip him.
Can't tip him.
So Port Adelaide by 5 goals.
Oh,
5 goals?
Right.
Okay. I'm going to say...
Ala Patikalo and Jackson Trengove will be back this week.
Okay. Port Adelaide, I'm going to tip him as well. I'm going to say 15 points. That'll be Collingwood's finals chances gone if they lose this game, I think.
The fact that Alapati and Trengove, that's pretty big for their defence.
Massive.
So, I think Port know they have to win this, and they're too good a side to be held down. So, I think Port will win it by about 18 points, boys.
That brings us to the end of another episode of Beyond the Boundary.
It does, boys. Make sure you like us on Twitter. Bang, 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 bang.
Follow us on Twitter.
It's not 5 of them. What? Bang, 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 bang. It's not like there's 20.
BTBAFL, at Guysonen, at JRickard981, at PK. Subscribe button up in your top right-hand corner there.
BTBAFL.live.com.au.
Any email inquiries, anything you want to tell us, send it in.
Just say anything. Tell us what you had for dinner.
Yeah, just say hello.
Got any Wayne Carey comparisons? Let us know. Had to slip that one in there. And Vinay, who would you like to thank?
I'm going to thank Valiant boys. They do a great job. Excellent YouTube partners. The best there is.
I'd like to thank our producer, Justin Westhoff. He is great every single week.
Good luck on Sunday, Justin.
And don't forget to check out our new segment, News and Views. At the end of the video, there's a link to that.
Vickery and Cox, James Podsiadly's snap on the weekend.
Big
Jake King,
issues. Good fun.
Retirement, plenty to talk
Coleman,
about.
ladder, just get onto it. It's a very, very good 20 minutes.
It's all there.
Absolutely. All right, boys, you can both get stuff. You can be a nightmare tonight. So have a good weekend.
That's the plan.
Carlton's not better than he's not better than Carey. That's what you said.
It was not.
I quote, you said Carlisle. I don't want to make
Some of the comparisons this week.
This is what he said, right? He said, I don't mean to be called Carlisle is better than Carey.
Don't say that.